Bases drop. Sorry about 9:01. Still trying to get used to this idea on Thursdays. And it might be the law of the land where we come back on at 9 o'clock because it looks like our studying for Atlanta United 2 is going to be at 11. So we'll go from 9 to 11. Come on 5 minutes early. As Hutch said early this morning on the Twitters, I know we're living dangerously here. I get coming up 5 minutes early on a Thursday. Thursday thoughts. And it's John here, you there. Maddie, Cruz, and the ones and twos should be hopping in just a little bit. And the rundown of what's going on. Jason should be joining us at some point in the 9:30 half hour, as he traditionally does. Then 10:30, as he always does, 10:30, 10:35 or so, Niko Moreno from our friends at the Soccer Barn, Pulso Sports, coming in at 10:30, 10:35 Eastern to give his perspective on what's going on out west and to get us ready for the weekend from his perspective. Morning, Alex. Morning, Dell. A lot of stuff to get into this morning. We didn't get into the Crossing Broad article about the Philadelphia Union. I know I wanted to get into that yesterday. We bookmarked that, so we'll get back into that a little bit when discussing Philadelphia. Might even be a conversation for Whip Around on Friday when we're discussing specifically the Philadelphia match. So bookmark Crossing Broad as something that's going on. We got the news of the AM, and there's a couple different things to get into there. Obviously, we've got what happened last night in the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza, the news that came out of Miami, and it appears that for those of you that have the Fantasy League here, and if you haven't signed up, please do, then it's the Jason Wright Agency Facebook, and it's Wright with a W, Jason Wright, AGEN on the Twitters. And if you haven't signed up for the Fantasy League, please do. But for those of us of a certain roster build, it appears that Lionel Messi probably isn't going to be playing for Messi and Friends, the matchup against DC this weekend, because he was pulled last night after 50 minutes, and it's that same leg injury. So we'll see how he continues to progress, and we'll see what the plan is for Tata Martino when it comes to the weekend and beyond, and having to navigate dudes in their mid-30s and trying to figure out what to do when it comes to load management and national team duty and winning cups and trophies and all that kind of stuff. So that's where, yeah, Tom, like I said, morning D Graham, morning time, a little early because, like I said, we got to get our studying in for Atlanta United 2 starting at 11 o'clock, and this is when we catch up with Steve Cook on Thursdays to get us ready for the broadcasts on the network. And it's Orlando City B that's going to be the season opener up at the Fraction on Saturday night to get us ready for Atlanta United and Orlando on Sunday. So it's the Purple Team doubleheader, first at the Fraction on Saturday, and then on Sunday night at Mercedes-Benz. So, yeah, on a little early. And like I said, this might be the law of the land for Thursdays, coming in about 5 minutes early just so we can have the 2 hours and be done at 11 o'clock. Shout out last night to our friends at Riverwood and Wheeler for helping us out for the midweek mashup, the non-region game between these two. And that's match number 2 of 3 this week. We don't have one today. Tomorrow we'll be in Perry for Griffin and Perry, big region rivals there. It's our first trip to Middle Georgia in the 478. So that one's going to be fun. 5:30 and 7:30, the broadcast on the network, soccerdownhere.mixler.com. And that's where we'll line up there. That's Friday. Saturday, once again, it's our broadcast of Atlanta United 2 and OCB. Half-hour pregame show. Cast the thousands and getting you ready for the season in MLS Next Pro and in Atlanta United 2. So we'll have that for you half-hour early on Saturday on our Mixler channel, Atlanta United 2 and OCB, to get you ready for what happens on Sunday. So A lot of stuff going on here in the network in the next couple of days. It's been a busy week. It's going to be continuing to see what's going on with Atlanta United too. I know that Maddie Cruz and I are going to be doing the pregame, and we'll pre-half and post. I think is me and Maddie, and like I said, cast of thousands. And if Jared's there, we'll get Jared involved, and probably in the post-game show. So yeah, we'll be all over the place for this one. So we'll figure out. You'll hear a lot of us when it comes to Atlanta United too, and that's going to be a fun one. Starting off with OCB on Saturday night. So getting into scores for last night. All right, so let me bring in Maddie here. All right, so Maddie called the girls' match, and Abby is requesting final scores. And on the boys' side, it was a tight one, and it was goalless at the break. Ended up a 2-1 final for Riverwood beating Wheeler. But go ahead and let Abby know what happened in the girls' match, which preceded the boys' match.
Oh, the girls' match was crazy. Let's just say that. The girls' match, Wheeler ended up coming home with the victory 6-5. It was a very back and forth match. It was the first time they had taken the lead was when they scored that 6th goal. It was crazy. It was very crazy. Elle Wakefield for Riverwood had 4 of the 5 goals. And Victoria Lopez, she had 5 of Wheeler's 6 goals. So let's just say it was a lot of fun. I had a great time. It was a great one.
Yep. So no, it was a fun one last night. And once again, thanks to our friends at Wheeler and with and Riverwood to let us be at Hoskins Stadium and be there to broadcast. It's always fun to go catch up with our friends at Riverwood, and we'll see how things continue to evolve from there. But we got a little bit of this. League's Cup schedule's out. The group stage schedule for Atlanta United, DC United, and Santos Laguna. So wasting no time. Traditionally, sometimes you get announcements like this and you're kind of waiting until after the show or 11:05, 11:10, and you sit there and you go, man, why didn't you just do it an hour early or something? Here's a group stage schedule for Atlanta United in League's Cup. As I sit there and look at the release, trying to find something quick. DC United, Atlanta United, Friday, July 26th at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Then the club is going to host Santos Laguna Sunday, August 4th at 4. All matches available on Season Pass, Apple TV, Televisa, Univision, Azteca, Fox Sports, FS1, TSN, and RDS are going to be broadcasting 15 group stage matches. Canada, Mexico, and the United States. The club's 2024 season ticket package will include the DC United match in League's Cup. So once again, Friday, July 26th, Atlanta United, DC United at Mercedes-Benz. Then Santos Laguna, Sunday, August 4th at 4 for the group stages. And so you get that info. Season ticket members will receive ticket info regarding the Santos Laguna match and the knockout round stage matches later today. Tickets to the group stage match against DC and Santos Laguna will begin to go on sale to the public Friday, April 5th at 10 a.m. Through Ticketmaster. Limited premium season ticket packages are still available. So, League's Cup group stage kicks off Friday, July 26th with Atlanta and DC, followed by the first Liga MX MLS match, Pumas battling Austin FC at 9 o'clock at Q2. Also opening night, LAFC hosting Tijuana at BMO Stadium in LA at 11. Seattle takes on Minnesota United at Lumen at 10 o'clock Eastern time. The Messi and friends are reigning League's Cup champs, begin the defense of their title Saturday, July 27 against Puebla at Chase Stadium in Fort Lauderdale. For those of you that might have forgotten, League's Cup group stage concluding with 15 matches between August 3rd and 6th. Cross-league matches, Group East 3 match Saturday, August 3rd. Tigres and Messi and friends at NRG in Houston. Monterrey and Pumas at Q2. Sunday, August 4th. Chivas and LAG in Carson, California. So that's your rundown. The 2 group stage matches for Atlanta United. DC United on July 26th, Santos Laguna Aug 4. So that's what you're looking at when it comes to the group stage for Leagues Cup. And there you go. The announcement, officially official. And I know that D. Graham is not he's not the only one with the opinion about Leagues Cup, but that's your announcements. And for those of you that have season tickets, looks like you're in for DC, and then you'll get info for Santos Laguna. So that's what you're staring at. So it's now officially official. We know what's going to happen with Atlanta United. But Maddie, really quickly, obviously, fun night across the board. A lot of goals for you on the girls' side for the Wednesday night mashup, and we'll see. You get the chance to catch your breath because you're not making the trip to Perry because you've got Kennesaw State lacrosse up at the Fraction on Friday.
I do. I'm going to be at the Fraction 2 days in a row, so I get double action at the Fraction.
Well, when you have 2 fractions, you have to figure out if they actually do make a whole experience, but we'll figure that out.
That is really true.
Coming up in just a little bit. All right, you're going to be hovering, and you're in charge of the 1s and 2s and keeping us honest and everything. So keep scouring the planet and trying to find out what's going on, things that we miss, and we'll catch up with you in a bit. Jason should be joining us somewhere in the 9:30 half hour, and we'll get our Atlanta United questions out of the way. Then Niko Moreno joining us at 10:30 before we leave here at 11 o'clock. All right, Maddie, thanks. We'll see you in a bit.
All right, I'll see y'all.
All right, that's Maddie Cruz on the 1s and 2s. And so that's where we are with Maddie. So this morning we talked a little bit about what was going on. Rich wants to know about the Leagues Cup game announcements. The Atlanta United one came from the club itself. They sent out the press release du jour, and they got that all squared away. I think the Leagues Cup is I thought the Leagues Cup had their own. Hang on just a second, Rich. Group stage. Okay, broadcast details, Leagues Cup group stage schedule, efforting, leaguescup.com. I went to MLSsoccer.com, and I was trying to figure out what I could find. But leaguescup.com, they have their own website for this now. And so leaguescup.com has the whole thing squared away for you. Yes, I accept all of your cookies, and the group stage announcement now officially official here today. Rivalries old and new. Merry Christmas. So that's where we're at. But Atlanta United announces what they have for theirs. I think the individual clubs themselves, Rich, might be letting everybody know who is playing what, where, and when. Hang on just a second. Let me see if Philly has announced theirs, because traditionally there are times when I will end up with emails from a bunch of different folks, and it's not in that one. And I know this is making for incredibly riveting live radio and television, but Inter Miami, New York City, New York, Miami, nothing from Philly yet. So I have not seen an official release type thing from Philadelphia Union, but if I do, I will let you know. But the teams are, the teams are announcing their group stage matches. I guess it's trickling out, and we'll see if they're. Bam's in this morning. So Bam, good morning. Thanks for coming on Nightside for you there in Australia. So yeah, we did talk about Messi getting dinged up last night, being pulled from the 50th minute in a match that really was in control for Inter Miami. They were up 2-0, then they were up 3-0. Messi was pulled in the 50th minute because of the muscle injury rearing its ugly head again, and so we'll keep an eye on that. But it appears, and Tata said that they are going to be cautious about it once again. He's going to likely miss Saturday's match against DC, taking a cautious approach to the injury. Test soon, see how he feels. Tata said, I don't want to take any risks, but I imagine he won't be available for Saturday's match. Rested against Montreal. Didn't appear to be injured as he was replaced by Robert Taylor, but Tata said that Leo had a muscle overload in his right leg. We all should be fortunate, perhaps, at sometimes to have muscle overloads, but I think this is probably in the bad way. Don't want to take any kind of risk with him. We tried to see if he could last a little longer after halftime. It was bothering him, so preferred to take him out of the match before being subbed. It's the earliest he'd been subbed off in the second half of a match in his career. He assisted Luis Suarez on the goal that made it 2-0. So 5-3 aggregate. Miami gets the winner of the series between Monterrey and FC Cincinnati, and that's in the quarterfinals on April the 2nd. So when Gary Smith was asked, and this was obviously before all of the stuff that hit the fan with the injury, Gary, what did you think about Leo Messi being pulled in the 50th minute? Gary he gave the funny answer. And so got pulled in the 50th minute, didn't help, and Inter Miami with what's going on. Oh, yes, Michael. I want to get into this really quickly. And I know this is kind of turning into a bit of a mashup for the opening kickoff, and I'll cut the promo for the opening kickoff in just a little bit. But, yeah, Gary Smith is a part of everything that he was mentioning last night after the loss, and Nashville was sent on their merry way in the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza. Gary Smith admitted that Walker Zimmerman had and I want to get this right. I want to get the wording correct when it came to Walker Zimmerman. So hang on just a second. Okay. So Ben Wright works at Broadway and Backfield, Broadway Sports Media. So Ben Wright last night, he had the full, he had the full comments with Gary and everything. So Gary Smith last night, post-match press conference, as Michael reminded us, news about Walker Zimmerman was a surprise. It was, because Ben Wright has Gary Smith saying that Walker Zimmerman had a fairly non-invasive procedure. Might keep him out 3 to 4 weeks, all hoping for a rapid recovery. What in the wide world of sports is a fairly non-invasive procedure? Do they take just like a needle and kind of poke at you a little bit? That's fairly non-invasive, and you're kind of poking a hole in somebody. I mean, invasive procedures, we're thinking, surgery and what have you. What in the blue you-know-what is a fairly non-invasive procedure? What device do they use for a fairly non-invasive procedure that could keep you out 3 to 4 weeks? We'll get into the men's national team roster announcement coming up in just a little bit. Rich is probably not wrong. It's to hide a very serious invasive procedure. What do you do? What do you do for a fairly non-invasive procedure? Kind of invasive, possibly invasive, might be invasive depending on your perspective. Gary Smith, quote, a fairly non-invasive procedure that may keep Walker Zimmerman out 3 to 4 weeks. We're all hoping for a rapid recovery. I mean, was it a crowbar, a tire iron, one of those battery-operated tire pressure gauges? Was it a tire pressure gauge? Was it a baseball bat? Was it a hockey stick? What did they do for this fairly non-invasive procedure? Fairly non-invasive. It's kind of surgery. It's a little surgery. As opposed to a big surgery, I don't know. But yeah, Gary Smith last night after losing, Walker Zimmerman had a fairly non-invasive procedure. That's the direct quote from our buddy Ben Wright up in Nashville. I'd love to know, A, where Walker went to have this fairly non-invasive procedure. Was it a kind of a hospital? Maybe a sort of emergency room? I mean, you hope that it wasn't an emergency room situation, but kind of a hospital, kind of a recovery room. Does he get kind of a bed, kind of a curtain? Does he get kind of a Jell-O meal for recovery? Does he kind of get cable TV? something like that. Like I said, when Gary Smith said a fairly non-invasive procedure, and like I said, I'm like, okay. I don't know if Gary can give you any kind of details. And I don't know if Gary would be kind of one to give you all the details, although he might. But a fairly non-invasive procedure for Walker Zimmerman. Obviously, we're hoping for the best, obviously, for the newest member of the Brookwood Broncos Hall of Fame. But, yeah, when that quote came across the line last night, a fairly non-invasive procedure. We're all hoping for a rapid recovery. He also admitted last night he's not happy with what's been going on the back line, been getting results, but been giving up goals. Counter to what was being attempted to be built. So apparently Gary was asked about Jack Mayer twice, and the response about the back line was the response. Seems like a technical decision rather than an injury. So, yes, Gary Smith is not happy. He's not happy, so we'll see. Yeah, the fairly non-invasive procedure. That's where we are. Jared's joining us now. Jared, I was discussing what happened with the Walker Zimmerman announcement yesterday. The fairly
procedure.
Yes, the fairly non-invasive procedure.
So the first thing that pops to mind here is I remember in 2018, I think it was, Tack McKinley was still with the Falcons because our punishment must be more severe. And he had some work done, like surgical work done. I forget what it was, but Tack in his look, the man was a handful to deal with, especially on a PR side of things for the club. He took a selfie and posted it to social media of himself, obviously because it's a selfie.
Yes.
From a hospital bed. And basically, like, I don't think the team really wanted it to be known that he had this done. So they put out a presser through the Atlanta Falcons that said something to the effect of Tack McKinley has had a surgery to address a procedure or something like that. I mean, it's just the most like, you aren't even trying.
No,
kind of thing.
No. So Tack kind of beat us to the idea of letting you know that he is going to be on the injured list, but the fairly non-invasive procedure, and it appears once again that Messi lasted 50 minutes, and Gary Smith was thankful for that before obviously knowing the extent of the injuries and things like that when Tata had his post-game press conference. But Messi out after 50 minutes, probably not going to be in D.C. this weekend. And so the navigating of gentlemen in their mid-30s continues for Tata Martino, who I will maintain to this day, the second he quits coaching, his hair is going to go jet black.
Probably. And it's, yeah, man, it's interesting. It's like you said, it's going to be a juggling act for him all year. And what we saw in the loss they had this weekend with Montreal is going to be you got to kind of parse through here of, like, you have to give Montreal their flowers for going on the road and winning.
Sensing the conjunction.
Yes. However, you do have to ask questions about Miami when you don't have the best conductor in the world running that orchestra on the field. And also a bunch of those guys who are like key players are very long in the tooth. And there's almost certainly going to be games where it just misfires to hilarious effect. And there's going to be games they win anyway because they have brought in young, talented players. Like, let's not get it twisted. There are still some very young, talented players that they brought in. This isn't just a team of 38-year-old men. Like, they have some balance to that roster as far as age is concerned. But, man, there's only one Messi, and you've kind of built the team around him.
Yep. And so, yeah, the continued interest in Messi and friends and the continued interest in bringing in new individuals apparently is continuing. It looks like they're bringing in possibly an individual who'll be out of contract at Boca Juniors to add to their defense and to their midfield. So you've got all of that, but we'll keep an eye on all of those things. What's up? What else is on your mind?
No, four card. I can do an hour on Nashville, and my spite for Nashville, because that's the thing is, this isn't the Nashville of even a couple of years ago. I mean, it's an older team that still plays the same way, but is Sam Sturridge going to turn it on and turn into Giacomakis? Because that's what they have always missed.
Yeah,
they're a team that sits deep. They have Hani Mukhtar, who's one of the best at leading the break that this league has ever seen, possibly the best this league has ever seen because he is still young and full of vigor and life. But they have always missed having that true number 9 Hellraiser. You don't have a Giacomakis who finishing wise.
Right.
Giacomakis fits this system just fine. Him running the breaks would be kind of terrifying, I think. Just because his passing can be hit or miss at times, but getting in front of net, he's fine. Even a young Joseph would make this team terrifying. But they have consistently tried to chase that year one high in terms of league play, and it just hasn't happened. You had the Leagues Cup run last year, but that Leagues Cup run was still sandwiched by underachieving in regular season play and before and after Leagues Cup. I don't know what to do in Nashville. They need to go. I don't know what they need to do something. I just don't know what it is. I don't know who they need to go grab, but they got to address something. Because it's not the same. They're not as terrifying defensively. That's the thing that gets me watching them. Is you go look at the Miami game from a week ago. Look, last night's result notwithstanding, Nashville takes a 2-0 lead at home on you. That used to be a UFC submission hold. That used to be a UFC submission hold. I mean, if they went up 2-0 on you, that was it. You pack it up. And instead, they gave up 2 goals. It's not the first time they've done that in the last 6 months of play. The lockdownness is not as locked down as it used to be, and it's a little jarring.
So we'll keep an eye on that with the rest of CONCACAF yesterday. Robin Hood and Herediano was a 1-1 draw. Herediano had a large margin up. They advanced. And Chivas beat Club America last night in the standard amount of crazy that you would anticipate in a second leg. 1-3-2. But, once again, the other folks are the ones that advance. So you end up with a not good Chivas team putting 3 on the board at the Estadio Azteca. Club America advances tonight. Our buddies Alajuelense are at home taking on the New England Revolution. Revs have a big margin, and Alajuelense fired their coach after leg number 1. And nothing like being met at the airport by fans who were jeering, chanting, and throwing coins at you and your players.
The Kiffin, but more so.
Yes, and so did not make the second leg. So the Revs with a big lead. They go to San Jose, Costa Rica to take on our friends from Alajuelense, and then at 10:15 at the Estadio BBVA, it's the reverse fixture in the Brandon Vasquez derby with Monterrey and FC Cincinnati. It's before we get to see what the next round is going to be in the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza. Yesterday, actually, tell you what, I'm going to hit my transition here and say that was opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's the QR code for those of you who are watching on Twitch or on our YouTube channel or on the 280-character app. Don't forget, like Michael Valverde, who has used the code Soccer Down Here 15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into the youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Yesterday, the upcoming episode of the Soccer for US POD will be analyzing the CONCACAF Nations League Final Four squad that was released yesterday by Greg Berhalter on the Golazo Network in the middle of the afternoon and laying things out. You've got the 23 players for the Final Four in Nations League. It includes Tyler Adams and Josh Sargent, who has had a bit of a resurgence this season with his offense and putting the ball in the back of the net. And so They've returned to the men's national team for the first time since the World Cup in 22. Adams captain Sargent started the first and third group matches. Adams has not played a Premier League match since moving to Bournemouth because of a hamstring injury that required surgery. Dressed for the first time since the surgery last week, and again, he dressed for the match against Luton yesterday. Big comeback win, by the way, for Bournemouth. Down 3-0. They come back to win 4-3. Devastating for Rob Edwards and Luton as they're trying to get closer to not being a part of the drop discussion. Josh Sargent came back from an ankle injury. He's averaging almost a goal every 90 minutes for Norwich in the championship. One of 3 center forwards. And so your lineup, Callender, Horvath, and Matt Turner in net. Defenders, Dest, Christopher Lund, who's been getting a lot of run recently. McKenzie, Ream, Richards, Jedi, Miles, and Joe Scally. 6 midfielders. Tyler Adams, Johnny, Luca De La Torre, Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa, Gio Reyna, who presumably would be getting more playing time with the national team than he is currently with Nottingham Forest. I think it's 39 minutes of full action since his new agent decided to put him in the charge of Nuno Espirito Santo, where he's just kind of staring at things right now in the Premier League. So this is what happens when you have agents who are tied to owners, and Evangelinos Marinakis is getting players from the new agent for Gio Reyna, but Gio Reyna ain't getting no playing time. So in theory, he could play a half in the CONCACAF Nations League and play more minutes than Gio's Premier League.
Gio's going to have to fight somebody at some point.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's his family or his agent or whoever, man. Gio's going to have to throw hands at somebody some point down the road.
Yeah. And your forwards up top, Balogun, Tillman, Pepe, Pulisic, Sargent, and Weah. And the first squad of 2024 for Les Bleus has been announced. Mikey Magnon is in net. Joao Klaus, Pavard, Upamecano, Camavinga, Fofana, Rabiot, Tchouameni, and you have Dembele, Giroud, Griezmann, Mbappe, and Thuram in your attaquant for the list for Les Bleus playing on the 23rd and the 26th. But when you look at this, lineup, Jared, and you look at this roster of 6, 6, 8, and 3, what does anything stick out to you, or as we're getting ready for the CONCACAF Nations League Final Four, what's on your mind when it comes to this group? Anything?
No, I mean, not really. Like, just kind of like, let's see where this goes. That's kind of where my brain is at with it. So,
okay, all right.
It's kind of wait and see mode.
Okay, so we won't wait and see because someone else is joining the party this morning, and it's time for Jason to drop in.
What's up?
We went over the Nations League roster, and we were trying to determine what was it that Gary Smith said the Walker Zimmerman was it was a fairly non-invasive procedure.
That's an interesting description.
Yes.
I don't really know what that means. I don't know how long that means he's not going to be available. So I don't know. That doesn't seem like a medical description.
No, Gary was hoping it was going to be 3 to 4 weeks when he said that may keep him out 3 to 4 weeks for a fairly non-invasive procedure. We were trying to get to the bottom of what a fairly non-invasive procedure was.
Good luck on getting to the bottom of that.
Yes. So you are running around doing a bunch of different things. And first and foremost, this is the first time that we've had the chance to catch up with you since the announcement yesterday on 92.9 The Game about something very, very cool coming up on April 6th.
Yeah, I think we are the first terrestrial radio station to carry a U.S. women's national team match. I might be wrong. It could have happened before at some point. And not taking a network feed or something, and that's not even all that common either. U.S. national team, men's or women's, on the radio in English has not really been a thing, and that's a shame. Football de Primera with Andres Cantor and Nico Cantor and their crew, they've done an amazing job covering the national teams in Spanish. But we haven't been able to do it in English. And now with the Federation coming to Atlanta, it kind of makes sense with everything we're doing at 92.9 The Game to continue to push and try to get those opportunities. So we've got the radio rights locally on 92.9 and on the Odyssey app for the She Believes Cup. Jessica Charman and I are covering the U.S.-Japan match, and then immediately running to the airport to make it to our regular gigs. Jess will get to Charlotte in time. I'll get to New York and should be walking in the booth as we kick off Atlanta and New York City. Literally as we kick off, I should be walking in the booth. It's going to be that tight of a turnaround.
And obviously, this is one of those first steps for the city of Atlanta to showcase itself when it comes to national and international competitions. I know that the goal is to fill out the lower bowl, and it's safe to say that there's probably more than 30,000 tickets sold as they're chasing the 41 to 43,000 that's there in the lower bowl. But this is a quality doubleheader, and it's the first real chance to see, with this announcement having made with the National Tennis Center. It shows you where my brain is with AEW, with the National Training Center for the U.S. It's a very, very cool thing, and trying to fill out the lower bowl would be a good first statement for fans of the sport here in the Southeast.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's twofold. I think getting that lower bowl filled, I mean, it's already set a record for a She Believes Cup match. Getting the lower bowl filled sets an expectation for future national team games. And I've said it all along when it comes to the women's national team and the Women's World Cup that the Federation is bidding for alongside Mexico. I think Atlanta could get the Women's World Cup final in 2027 if they get it. Different rules and regulations in terms of who can host the final. It would be a huge spectacle, obviously. And I think the U.S. Would have a great chance to get the 27 bid. And then Atlanta would have a great chance to get the final in that one, considering they're getting a semifinal in the Men's World Cup the year before. So all these kinds of events in the lead up, especially national team events, it's a big deal. And it's not, not trying to like guilt trip anybody into buying tickets and going to this, but supporting these events and spreading the word and making it feel like a big deal in this city is huge. And we're taking that on from the radio station side of things. I mean, that's been something that Mike Conti and I have talked about over the years quite a bit as we've wanted to grow everything that we're doing. I don't like to do the who is the wrestler who doesn't like to toot their own horn, but toot?
Arn Anderson.
Arn Anderson. I will go Arn Anderson for a minute here, because we're doing an hour of pregame for Atlanta United matches. We're doing an hour of postgame. We have 4 voices on the broadcast. It is, I believe, the most comprehensive radio broadcast in the league, and it is, done by design to be on the level of Major League Baseball, NBA, NFL, and those broadcasts. That's what we strive for. That's what we try to accomplish. And getting national team games and doing this as well, that's part of our mission to show that soccer on the radio is just like football on the radio or baseball on the radio. I mean, I was on with Dukes and Bell yesterday as the Kirk Cousins stuff was bubbling up. It hadn't been officially announced yet. I think he was undergoing the physical when I was on. But we're talking about the comparisons to Kirk Cousins and coming to Atlanta and resetting the expectations to Atlanta United, bringing in new faces and moving past the old days. And when you're able to have those conversations with people like the biggest drive time radio show in Atlanta, and they're on board with having that conversation, it's not just, oh yeah, let's have our little soccer segment and then let's not have it mix into anything else. Those guys go to games. Those guys are talking about it. And when you can get those parallels between all of it, that should be what we want as soccer people. I know at times, and I understand it because, trust me, I've went through it as a fan over the years. We want as much coverage as we can possibly get because we're crazy. We're sickos. We would watch all of it. We would listen to all of it. But what changes everything and what makes it mainstream, which should be the goal? I don't want a whole bunch of coverage over here that I can access, but nobody really knows it's there. That's great. I like it. But that's not going to change and move the needle. What changes them and moves the needle is having women's national team games on radio, just flat out on radio. It's not about let's do a game because it's a women's game. No, it's a soccer game. It's a national team game. It is a women's game. It's all part of the same mix. Like doing what we're doing with Atlanta United games, it's because it's a big deal. Having the conversations that we have across shows, it's because it's a big deal. That's what changes everything. That's what moves the needle, and that's what we're trying to do. And hopefully it'll have an effect. And I think it has, with getting World Cup games here and getting more people talking about soccer in a variety of ways. And hopefully with the women, it'll be the same thing.
Looking forward to it on a bunch of different levels when it comes to everything going on April 6th. Jarrett, what's on your mind?
Let's talk about the week coming up then, since we're a couple days out from another game. Jason, I think Orlando played about as perfect as a game as you could have wanted from an Atlanta fan perspective. They had to go to Mexico and basically fight in a broom closet with a bunch of gremlins with only a knife in their hand.
Are you calling Gignac a gremlin?
I'm saying it was a vicious game.
Yes.
And
I'm not calling Gignac a gremlin. That was Jared Smith. You can find him on social
Gignac.
Media, Andre Pierre Gignac.
I adore Gignac. Mostly because Gignac went to Mexico and just never left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just rolled up and was like, this place is nice. I'm not going anywhere.
I like it.
But they played about a perfect game as you could ask for Atlanta, in that it was tight late, and they still had hope into the 80th minute before they had it snuffed out. What are you expecting from an Orlando team that comes in here? I know you talked to Dax McCarty about it earlier in the week about the way that Orlando plays, but I feel like this game kind of changes things a bit in how they might approach it.
Yeah, look, there's a duality to Orlando, and I agree with Dax. I mean, we've talked about Orlando and Pareja over the years. This is a guy and a team that they want the ball. They want to control possession. They have guys who are good on the ball. That's what they want. Might not be what they can do on Sunday. And the duality of Orlando is that we have seen them at times, usually late in seasons or in big games, become a very difficult team to break down. They can be defensive. They can get numbers behind the ball. And I wonder, because of that trip, because of what happened last year with the hangover of getting knocked out by Tigres, this is reversed in the way that it went down, but it's still going to be, as much as it is physically exhausting, it's going to be emotionally draining for that team as well. So I think you're going to have to rotate some, but I kind of think they're going to come in and sit at least to start, and Atlanta's going to have to break that down. We'll see if that's what Orlando chooses to do. It's early in the year. Maybe they feel like they've got the legs to continue to play their way, but just have a sneaking suspicion that they might be a little more conservative on Sunday.
Maddie Cruz, first question for Jason Longshore. Go.
I got so nervous because I didn't know that I was already in the queue. And I was like, I'm
in like the Kool-Aid man, and you didn't even know.
Here. But we're chilling. I was researching. I was doing stuff. No, I mean, I think one thing that's, we're obviously going up against, it's this makeshift rivalry in essence, but it is kind of a rivalry.
It is. I think it is. I know a lot of people, because it's what we do, we always have to put qualifiers on everything and downplay everything. I don't know why we do this in the soccer world. I really wish we wouldn't. I hate the cynicism of everything. It's like, it's contrived. It's not really a big deal. Saw it happen when people were talking to Sean De Silva at media this week. No, it's a rivalry. Trust me, I've had games in Orlando where you could hear people yelling on the crowd mic to the point that I got texts worried about my personal safety. If that's not a rivalry, I don't know what is. It's a rivalry. I fight this all the time.
Absolutely. I agree as well. I think there's always like that fire whenever we play them. Like it doesn't matter what it is. I just I want to beat this team. I just do. Mm-hmm. But I think with that being said, obviously Orlando's coming in with these tired legs. What have you been hearing? What is the expectation around this matchup coming up? Like what has been said? What has Pineda been talking to the team about? What is the team's overall thoughts on the game so far?
I think they want to be aggressive, and I think that's kind of an ongoing thing here with this group. I think coming into this year and just hearing Gonzalo speak about what they're working on and what they're planning game to game, it's not going to change dramatically. I think in soccer, and again, this is where those comparisons to other sports, it is important to dig into what makes it different. I think basketball has a lot of similarities to soccer in this regard. You don't game plan exactly in the same way that you would in football. You're not able to script plays, for example, and really say, all right, this team is weak on the right side of their line. I'm going to run at that 3 out of my first 5 running plays. You can't get to that level of detail in game planning in soccer and in basketball because it's a game of transitions. It's a game of movement. But you can continue to drill down on how your team plays. And that's number one. You have to play your game. And I think in the way that Atlanta United approaches games, the way that Columbus Crew approaches games, the way that Pep Guardiola approaches games, Roberto De Zerbi, teams of that ilk. And they're not all similar. They don't all do the exact same thing, but they all have the idea. We want the ball. We want to control the game with the ball. We want to manipulate space to create opportunities. You're going to work with your group to continue to do that better and better and better each game, because that doesn't change. That never changes. There are little things that you might work on specifically for opponents. So like I mentioned in the football analogy, if a team is weak on a certain side, yeah, you might try to focus a little bit on that side early on. I think Atlanta did that in the Columbus game in the playoffs, for example. I think they tried to do that a little bit against New England, but New England had a wrinkle that was fascinating with Matt Polster turning into an auxiliary right back at times, sliding to the right, and then kind of dealing with Thiago Almada as Lima stepped up. So it wasn't like New England abandoned the right side when the fullback went forward. Polster slid over and covered it, so they still had their back four. It was interesting, and it took Atlanta a little bit of time, I think, to find the open spaces and deal with it. So you're working on little things for the opponent, but you're just trying to get better at what you do. And what the sense I've gotten from this week is they want to be better and more effective when they press. This isn't going to be a team that's going to press all the time because they want the ball. They want to press quickly when they lose it, when things are right, when you're positioned right. If you're stretched, for example, let's say it's an attacking sequence where Almada comes over to the right side where he's typically on the left. Let's say Shande came into the middle and he makes the run over. So you're overloaded on one side. Ball turns over and flips. The other team is able to flip it to the opposite side quickly. You're not going to press there because you're not in a position to press. You've got to recover and defend in that situation. Those are the things that Pineda wants this team to be better at. Recognition in those moments. But when that happens and you're able to pin a team on a side, do that. Dax talked about that. I believe Shande talked about it a little bit. I know it's something Gonzalo has focused on, and we saw it to pretty good effect outside of a few times against Columbus. One of those ended up deciding the game. When a team has the ball on one side, you don't want to let them get out. You don't want to let them switch. You don't want to let them get the ball to the opposite side. Those are the moments that I think they're working on to get better and better. But that's if they're playing Orlando, New England, Toronto, whoever. Specifically for Orlando, it's honestly kind of hard to prepare for this one because they are coming off CONCACAF. They are going to rotate, I would think, to some degree. And there's a little bit of an unknown about their approach. So this season, more than ever, I think you're going to hear from Gonzalo and hear from players. We're working on what we do. We're working on that. Don't think that means they don't look at what the opponent presents. That's not true. But the focus is on being better at Atlanta's game, home or away, playing their style. The secondary focus is how can we use that to exploit deficiencies in the opponent or protect ourselves against things they do very well. That's secondary, though, to playing Atlanta's game.
What have you thought about some of the newer faces? I know obviously it's a small sample size with just the couple of matches that have been on the board, but specifically Bartosz Slisz, Derek Williams, and Stian Gregerson. What have you thought about those three at the back?
I said it on Dukes and Bell yesterday, talking specifically about Gregerson and Slisz, but Williams is in this as well. They've brought a different attitude and a different vibe to the way this team defends. And that's something that was desperately needed after what we saw last year. We talked about it a lot in the second half, and it got a little bit better. Blocking shots, blocking passes, those kinds of things. It doesn't sound exciting. It doesn't sound like something that can decide games, but it does. And I think we're seeing guys like Gregerson, Williams, and Slisz, they'll throw their body around. They'll get physical. Slisz blocked a shot with his rib cage that took him to the ground on Saturday night. It was tough. You're going to get those moments out of that group, and that stuff's contagious. I think that's another element that when you're looking at multiple sports where I think soccer and basketball have a lot of similarities in a variety of ways. And I do think tactically there are similarities in that. But in the chemistry side of things, there is a lot of similarities between the two. You see it in basketball when you've got a hustling defensive guy who's diving on the floor and making plays. What happens? Other guys do it.
Yep.
When you get Bartosz Slisz putting his body on the line, Brad Gazan running out 30 yards to help pick him up and pat him on the back and give him an attaboy and all that, that stuff becomes contagious and other players do it. I think this year I've seen something that has stood out to me in these first two games when you look at the stats beyond the basic stats. Saba Lobjanidze is running his tail off this year. And that's not something that I think if you watched him last year, you would have thought of first. He's leading the team in sprints. He's putting in some serious defensive effort in just work rate. And look, some of that is coming from what the coaching staff wants, obviously, and they're convincing players of doing these things, which is a big part of coaching. But I really do feel like that defensive triangle at the heart of the spine of the team with Williams, with Gregerson, with Slisz, I think the way that they approach the game, the way that they approach defending has become a little contagious in this group, and you're seeing better work defensively from the entire group because of that.
Another couple of minutes here with Jason as we break down Atlanta United. Anything else on his mind? Jarrett, go for it.
As far as the way, Atlanta's going to deal with a team that maybe doesn't try and wrestle them for the ball as much, how big do you think it is about finding guys off the bench who can come in and contribute in a game like this? So if it's a day where, Xande Silva isn't on his Xande Silva nest, that you can be able to go to Edwin Mosquera or Tyler Wolff to be able to come in and just keep terrorizing the fort on an Orlando team and just not let up.
The wing position, I think, is where Atlanta is at its deepest. I mean, with Saba, Xande penciled in as starters week to week, although I don't think it's Sharpie. I think it's pencil because Tyler Wolff wants to start games. Edwin Mosquera, now that he's healthy, wants to start games. Derek Etienne wants to prove himself as well after a disappointing year last year, and now he's healthy. So you've got a lot of competition there, which is great. And you have a lot of different profiles there too. I mean, Mosquera coming off the bench with his relentless running and 1v1 ability and improving defensive effort as well. That's important because it's different than Saba on that right side when he replaces him. Tyler Wolff is a different kind of player than Xande Silva, maybe a little more goal dangerous, maybe a little bit more of a striker mentality, but relentless on the defensive side. I think Tyler, out of the attacking players, is the best defender of that group. So you can get different profiles. You can mix and match a little bit depending on what you need in the game, what you need maybe from the start in some games, what you need from the bench in other games. It's a good situation to have. And going across the board, honestly, when you have a team that has depth and you have a team that has competition for playing time, even though you have established, you know who some guys are who should be starting with this team. There's nothing wrong with that. But you don't have guys just sitting on the bench happy to be there. And that's the difference, I think, with this group where you're pretty deep across the board. It's going to get tested coming up with international call-ups and all that. That's going to be a challenge for a lot of teams in this league, but Atlanta's definitely going to be one of the teams that is most challenged by it. So in a game like this one against Orlando, where they might have tired legs and they might have to try to go to the bench earlier than you would think, Atlanta has the ability to do the same. And those wing positions especially are where I think they can change the profile of the way that they play.
Maddie Cruz, last question for Jason Longshore. Go for it.
I feel like we've talked a lot about the first team. I want to bring up the second team. They're playing also Orlando City B team as well. Does that rivalry kind of transfer over into MLS Next Pro? And what are your expectations for the first home match for the Twos?
It hasn't yet, although I think it will. The game last year down there that went to penalties was insane. I was on the road with the first team. I think we were in Chicago, and me and the digital team were sitting in a restaurant watching that on our phones as it was going down the wire and went to penalties, and Atlanta got the win in that. I think with the twos, there's a couple things I'm looking forward to this week. One, just the fact that the twos are back in action in regular season. I get as excited about Atlanta United too as I do about the first team because it's such an important piece of the club's overall development. That's where we saw Caleb Wiley as a 15-year-old break through. That's where we saw Noah Cobb as a 15-year-old break through. It's where we've seen guys emerge. And when I think back to big moments, I think it's Hughes as, alongside the first team. I think to Jackson Conway's goal last year in Huntsville, that was one of my favorite goals that I saw last season. I think to Nash Skoglund getting a game when you didn't have any other goalkeepers at one point, and Skoglund goes in and has a great game out of the academy. Stuff like that is just, that's why I love being around the twos, and I'm so excited that we get to call Atlanta United 2 games here on Soccer Down Here. Again, you can listen on the Mixler channel. The Mixler app is a good way to listen as well if you don't want to go direct to the website link. Just make sure you favorite Soccer Down Here. You'll get notifications when we go live. We'll have all the Atlanta United 2 games on the network. What I'm looking forward to this weekend specifically is I think you're going to see maybe a little bit of the preparation for Toronto with the twos this week, because you're going to be missing, we know Yorgos Yakimakis at this point. We know Luis Abram, probably Caleb Wiley, because the Olympic team will be playing during the window. That roster has not come out yet, I don't believe, unless it did since we started. You could be missing a few other players as well for that Toronto match. So you're going to need to have some guys maybe get minutes with the twos that might be with the first team in Toronto next week. I think Noah Cobb and Efrain Morales are possibilities there. I think you could see even a Ronald Hernandez, who has played with the twos occasionally. He might need to play left back in Toronto. So maybe he gets a game to get a little bit of that match sharpness. So I think you'll see some of that, which we do throughout the season with Atlanta United too. That's typical. But I also want to see guys like Aiden Torres, who is on a homegrown deal, but he's 16 years old. He won't be in this one because he's away with the U17s, but I want to see him this season as he becomes, he changes from being an academy player who's playing up to a professional player. And that process takes a little bit of time. It takes some games. And then you have the guys like John Berner and Karim Tamimi, and Javier Armas and Daniel Russo, Matthew Edwards, guys who are on twos contracts, who, whether their future is here in Atlanta, getting to the first team, or staying with the second team, or this is a platform like it was for Kofi Twumasi. He goes on to Rhode Island. It's a spot where you have a lot of players who are very hungry. But what Steve Cook, Jose Silva, what the staff has said consistently in preseason is this is a really good group right now for the twos, with those established pros, with the first team guys who come into the group and are completely bought into it, and the academy kids who are coming up. They all mesh together really, really well, and they've blended together and created a good team. Alan Carlton as well. I didn't mention him. I saw a little bit of the training on Tuesday, and Alan Carlton was flying all over the field, just doing everything. He could have a really big year this year for the twos. I hope he does, because I thought we saw some really good flashes of his game last year. Get out and support the twos when you can. I know you can't make it to every game. I understand. You can listen on Soccer Down Here. You can watch on Apple TV, MLS Season Pass. The games that aren't there are on the MLS Next Pro website. We'll try to keep you updated where you can watch, but you can always listen with what we're doing, and we're going to have some more content around the twos as well. It's such an important part, and to me, like that's the graduate school for the guys who come through the academy, and that's the part of the club that when you talk about establishing identity, and I'm getting beyond like tactical identity that can evolve. I'm talking about the club identity, the very big picture things of how you want players to play, how you want players to act, how you want these people to develop. You look at the twos as a really important part of that. So if you love the club and you're going out watching games, go watch the twos when you can, because you're going to get up close. You're going to hear everything. You might have to put earmuffs on the young kids, and you're going to get to see really good soccer. And you're going to get to see those guys who end up at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in their first steps as a pro. I can't recommend Atlanta United 2 and everything around it enough.
Broadcast plans for you for the weekend are what?
Let me see if I can remember. I'll just tell you all my schedule for the next few days.
The broadcast plans are death.
That might be Sunday night at the end of all of it. I can get to Sunday. Today, in just a little bit, I'm actually heading up to the Darlington School in Rome. I'm working on a feature on the U.S. Soccer extended national teams. Going to talk to Stuart Sharp. Going to talk to coaches and players on the power soccer team, on the cerebral palsy national team. Have a feature on that. You'll see some of it on Soccer Down Here. You'll see it on 92.9 as well on Off the Woodwork. Friday, we're going down to Perry. Griffin at Perry, high school soccer action. First trip to Perry. That will be 5:30 for the girls, 7:30 for the boys. You can listen to that on the Mixler channel. Saturday, Atlanta United 2. That's at 3 o'clock. We'll be on the air at 2:30 with your pregame against OCB. That's on the Mixler channel. And then Sunday, 6 o'clock, Five Stripes Countdown with Abe Gordon, Garrett Chapman. We'll talk to Garth Lagerwey in about the middle of the show or so. He'll join Mike Conti and I in the booth. That's been a really cool element that we've added this year in the pregame, beyond going to an hour, is having that conversation with Garth. That's not really about the game in front of us, maybe for a second. It's really about the big picture of soccer in Atlanta, in the United States, in the world. And it's really cool to get Garth's perspective on all of that. So that'll be at about 6:30 or so. Pre-game coverage starts at 6. Game kicks off at 7:10. And then the full-time report after, and we'll have players and coaches in that. And then I will sleep probably until Monday at about 2 p.m.
Attaboy. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, as you always do here on Thursdays, partner. We'll catch up with you soon. Business is picking up. If it hadn't already picked up, it's really going to
It's been picked up, and it's only going to get more picked up as we go.
Yeah, with Next Pro hopping on here on the SDH network, that just adds to it with the high school and everything. All right, my friend, we will see you soon.
Adios, y'all.
And there goes Jason. So Jason comes in on Thursdays.
Hope you're excited for Saturday night. And yes, Abby's right. Only 16% chance of rain, but it's a Tuesday game. We're going to have a frog strangler for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Because we can't have a Tuesday game without having a frog strangle in rain.
We can't have nice things at the fraction. We just can't. We can't have things happen on time, or at least during the heat of summer, we can't. Hopefully here in the tail end of winter, we can do that. And remember, the start time is not normal. It is a 3 o'clock start. There are 2 matches that are going on at 3 o'clock Saturday afternoon. No night side matches for Major League Soccer because they don't want to compete with the MLS audience. So 2 matches at 3 o'clock. One of them is OCB in the twos. That one's at the fraction. 2:30 is our pregame show start on the SDH network. Chattanooga at Findlay at Fort Findlay's hosting Hunt City. So that's the other 3 o'clock matchup, and that's going to be fun with those two as Jarrett gives us the Irish goodbye. So, Maddie, it's going to be a full weekend between your lacrosse at the fraction, you having to return to the fraction on Saturday. You've got a busy time, and we're all just flying around here right now on the SDH network.
Oh yeah, and don't worry, I'll keep the booth nice and warm for you guys when I go in there Friday.
Do we want the booth nice and warm?
I don't know. I mean, I can get fans.
Equipment overheats if you do that, though.
Oh well, then I'll bring like fans. Don't worry. I'll make sure the setup's looking all nice for tomorrow. I'll make it look all nice, and then when we come in on Saturday, it'll be good. It'll be good.
Yes. So we're looking forward to it. All right. We'll catch up with you coming back up in just a little bit. Niko Moreno joining us in a half hour.
Awesome.
All right. There goes Maddie. Yes, we want dry. We want both of them dry. Rich, big hype in Philly for the Union 2 home opener this Sunday. Good weather, first team away always helps. 900 to 1,000 folks could be in attendance at Subaru Park. That's very, very cool. Really hoping that you end up with a lot of folks there in Chester for the beginning of MLS Next Pro. We'll be getting into those matchups. We'll talk about those matchups tomorrow. We'll talk about USL Championship tomorrow. We'll talk about League One tomorrow. Get into Atlanta United Weekend Whip Around in hour number 2. I think the Weekend Whip Around is evolving into more than just First Division here in the U.S. It looks like we're probably just going to end up talking Second Division and everything else in hour number 2, with most of it being, Atlanta United, Major League Soccer, and all that. But that won't be the only things that we talk about tomorrow. Friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring will be joining us as well at 9:30. Don't know if Michael Parkhurst will be there or Greg Garza, or if they're going to be flying around and not having Wi-Fi signals. But home opener for Rhode Island FC, sold out at Burns Stadium on the campus of Bryant University. And really looking forward to seeing that environment as well in USL Championship. So a lot of stuff going on this weekend. High school Friday, MLS Next Pro on Saturday to get you ready for the big show, Major League Soccer, Atlanta United and Orlando City on Sunday night for Major League Soccer. All right, hour number 2. And there are things to get into. Mile High, good to see you. And snow day for Mile High. He's playing hooky and got to see the Fatal 4-Way with us in the last half hour. Morning, Kefsey. Morning, Rich. Now, let's see. And Rich brings up something in the Thursday thoughts. Bam, I know that if you're still listening as you're heading to bed, thanks for hanging out with us as you always do in the late night overnight down there, down under, hanging out with us here on the morning show. Michael Head, good to see you this morning. Morning Forecard, good to see you as well. David and Alex and everybody, thanks for coming in here and hanging out if you always do. Rich gives us a link to the Pittsburgh Penguins 280-character app. Apparently, there is a thing going on, and this is outside the purview of soccer for the moment, but about an hour ago, it was announced that, according to the Pittsburgh Penguins, the shipment carrying the Jaromir Jagr bobbleheads that was on its way to the Igloo for the Pittsburgh Penguins game tonight, the shipment of bobbleheads was stolen. Stolen bobbleheads. That's what Jaromir Jagr bobbleheads mean to Pittsburgh. The shipment of bobbleheads was stolen. As a result, obviously, the bobbleheads will not be distributed at tonight's game, but distributed at a later date. So the Penguins actually had to script a press release to explain what in the hell's going on. We got a lot of world news and some things and some stupidity down here. The Penguins announced the shipment stolen after its arrival in California. Bobbleheads not in Pittsburgh, not distributed, but will be distributed. The Penguins learned that they were victims of cargo theft after failing to receive the shipment as scheduled. Like I said, this is from the Penguins themselves. The team worked with the manufacturer and transportation companies to alert the appropriate state and federal authorities who are currently working to locate the cargo. It's an open investigation. No further comment will be made in order, it's not to hamper with the recovery of the goods, but they have a split infinitive in the press release, to not hamper. You have to keep your infinitive together, not to hamper the investigation. To not hamper is a split infinitive. My mother would be chasing after the Pittsburgh Penguins writing staff at the moment. Then they have the president of business operations with a 2-sentence quote. And all fans in attendance get a voucher that includes a one-time scannable barcode required to pick up the bobblehead at a later date. Location and dates for pickup will be announced when the items are safely located, and the new bobbleheads are produced and available for distribution. Only fans in attendance eligible to receive the voucher. So, bobblehead theft, people. That's what the Jaromir Jagr bobblehead means to the people of Pittsburgh. That it was the truck with the bobbleheads was stolen. Stolen. And Dell has an early suspect, Gritty. It would be like a Flyer mascot to steal a Penguins availability. Yes, lots of mail home walkabout lately, according to Gone lately. Yeah, we haven't gotten a lot of our mail recently either. Hutch, wonder what the ransom for the bobbleheads will be. That's an interesting question. What will the ransom be for the bobbleheads? Considering that it is Jaromir Jagr, I imagine that the flow on those bobbleheads is going to be amazing. I can understand the thievery that's attached. I can understand it. I don't condone or endorse it, but nevertheless, I do understand it because it is a Jaromir Jagr bobblehead, and I imagine that the mullet will be amazing on these bobbleheads. So we'll see. Lots of gossip, rumor, news, innuendo before Niko Moreno joins us in 20 minutes. And we are out at 11 o'clock. A couple of different things overseas. Remember, and the other thing tomorrow we've got to preview. The NWSL kicks off this weekend on a bunch of different networks. Good for them. And it's literally you're going to need a scorecard to figure out where your favorite team is going to be broadcasting their match on any given week. But the fact that we have this issue with the NWSL is very cool. Ella Stevens made the final roster for Gotham FC as they announced their roster yesterday. Our interview with Ella is up on the network. If you missed it, we caught up with her in training camp. A couple of other things going on overseas, and the reason I bring this one to the table is because of our ties to Jessica Charman. We were discussing how the owner of her favorite club, Reading FC, ain't paying no bills, don't want to pay no bills, don't want to invest in the club anymore, and it shows. And a couple days ago, we had mentioned that the owner of her club is trying to figure out ways to pay bills. And one of those was to put the training ground of the club on the market. They apparently have a buyer at 50 cents on the dollar. The training ground, Bearwood Park, was created to the tune of 50 million pounds. It appears local rivals Wickham Wanderers are going to want to pay $25 million, and they came out with a release about an hour ago that says that Wickham can confirm they are engaged with Reading in expectation of the purchase of the Bearwood Park training facility. Jess says that football has an ownership problem. Sad to see another club profit on our dire situation right now. So a local rival wanders up to a club that needs cash. Hey, we'll pay you 50 cents on the dollar for your training ground. Owner's like, sure. So they're waiting for that to get all the I's dotted and the T's crossed. And so it appears, in absence of a takeover from our friends at the Telegraph, serious concerns within League One about the club covering March wages and required tax payments. Basically, when you see the letters HMRC, His Majesty's Royalty and Customs, that's the equivalent of the IRS in England. You see HMRC attached to anything, they're coming for you. And they're undefeated. £1 million shortfall to overcome this month alone, just to make ends meet. Failure to pay wages or the tax man would almost certainly result in a further points deduction from the EFL. They've been docked 6 points this season because of financial difficulties. And so it appears that potential buyers for the club are understood to have withdrawn from proceeding with a sale when it became clear that the training ground wouldn't be a part of the deal. So the owner for Reading has the club up for sale. He doesn't want to invest anymore. I'm putting the club up for sale. Okay, cool. That's normal. But now that it appears that you have split the training ground away from the club, and a local rival looks like they're going to buy it, folks are pulling away from purchasing the club because you won't have the training ground attached. So once again, this gentleman has cut off his nose to spite his face. The continued stupidity of Da Young as an owner continues. Folks are interested in buying the club. Okay, cool, great. But hey, I need money. I'm going to sell the training ground for 50 cents on the dollar, get 25 million pounds for it or somewhere in there. And now folks aren't interested in buying the club because you got the training ground sold. Was built in 2019 as they were looking to, try and get their way back into the Premier League. A 5-year-old training facility for 50 million pounds. Wickham's been looking for their own training facility since being priced out of a deal for a site that they lease. A Georgian billionaire who resides in Kazakhstan is believed to be an investor in Wickham Wanderers. It is thought that that billionaire will soon become a board member under the owner. The Sell Before We Die group that we mentioned that Jess is a part of, spokesperson said the club is now firmly on life support. Selling one of Reading's key assets makes the club even less attractive to a new owner. Check and double check. So the stupidity continues as we continue stupidity down here to bridge us to getting closer to catching up with Niko at 10:30. Do you remember the story about the Spartak Moscow player that we talked about who was sentenced to 6 years in prison in absentia for drug trafficking in the Netherlands? You remember that one? Quincy Promes? He was arrested in Dubai at the request of the Netherlands. Netherlands are going to ask for the extradition of the former Dutch international. Did not attend court hearings in his case in Amsterdam, not expected to return to the Netherlands for the foreseeable future. Prosecutors said that Promes was arrested through a red notice, a worldwide request to law enforcement to locate and provisionally arrest a person pending extradition. The Amsterdam court last month said Promes had directly been involved with the shipments of almost 1,400 kilos of cocaine from Brazil through the port of Antwerp into the Netherlands in 2 shipments back in 2020. In another Dutch court case, the former Ajax Sevilla forward last year sentenced in absentia to 18 months in jail for assault in connection with a fight in 2020 in which he stabbed a cousin in the knee. Of course, the player has denied all charges and has filed an appeal in both cases. Quincy Promes. So we'll keep an eye on him. I'm trying to see what other stupidity down here. We have Maddie has pulled some stupidity down here. And let me see if the story that I pulled matches the story that, yes, Kefsi from Brazil came down the mountains to the West first. Yes. And so you end up with a story out of Vienna in Austrian soccer. 3 Rapid Vienna soccer players not selected for national team duty after video emerged of them taking part in post-match celebrations, shouting homophobic chants with a selection of the crowd. Guido Burgstaller, Marco Gruhl, and Nicholas Hadel were seen, among others, chanting after the club defeated rivals Austria Vienna on February 25th. Austrian men's national team manager Ralf Rangnick said he left the trio out for the upcoming fixtures after he and the staff watched videos of the incident. Rangnick said Tuesday the 3 apologized, but he expected the players to, quote, really take a serious look at the issue and understand what it means for people when they're publicly insulted and discriminated in this way. That's something I won't tolerate in my team. Former interim manager for Manchester United said the decision was not permanent, but the players would have to prove they learned from their actions. Rangnick said paying lip service to an apology because they've now realized what an echo it has caused is no excuse. For me, it's not about what you can say. You can say a lot. The deciding factor is what the behavior looks like. So Ralf Rangnick ain't taking no ish from anybody. Bergstaller apologized. Gruhl apologized. Club released a statement. Austrian Football League has suspended Bergstaller, Gruhl, Hadel, as well as teammates Thorsten Schick and Maximilian Hoffmann. The club's managing director and assistant coach. One of the assistant coaches also disciplined by the league. Good on Ralf Rangnick. I know we give Ralf Rangnick a lot of stick, but good on you, Ralf Rangnick, in this case. Good work. Also, let's see. I think that's it for that particular paper. Let me see if there's anything that I've missed in all the other papers here. Since we seem to be on a Stupidity Down Here roll. Sir Jim Ratcliffe appoints a firm to oversee a major cost-cutting drive at Manchester United. Wouldn't be a businessman otherwise. James Ducker. When Ducker's got the byline at the Telegraph, it's big-ish. He aims to free up cash to invest in the squad and ensure the club do not break spending rules, but substantial job cuts are expected at Manchester United. He has appointed a corporate restructuring firm. Now, if that doesn't sound official like a bunch of bean counters, I don't know what is. To oversee a major cost-cutting drive, which he hopes will free up more money to invest in the first-team squad, ensure the club do not flout Premier League rules governing spending. Interpath Advisory began their review earlier this month. They've been tasked with examining all areas of United's business with a view to driving greater efficiency, so they're efficiency experts, and determining where savings can be made. United's finances are tight heading into the first transfer window for Ratcliffe, and the Ineos owner wants to provide the recruitment team with as much room to maneuver as possible, given the limits by PSR and FFP. Right now, it is recognized that United's transfer budget will be squeezed because of financial fair play. A two-tiered approach to analyzing business and operational costs, with the first phase of the review focusing on the club's fixed and variable costs, such as travel expenditure, utilities arrangements, and contracts with external suppliers. The second phase later this year will look specifically at employee costs and is expected to lead to substantial job cuts. Telegraph reported last month how around 250 jobs could be under threat amid the prospect of cuts to around 20 to 25% of the staff at Manchester United. United employed 1,112 staff as of June 30 last year, by far the highest number among the Premier League Big Six. A general acceptance staffing levels are bloated. Sources said no fixed targets for savings, but that the aim of the review is to identify areas where the club can spend money more effectively and maximize resources available for investment in football success, as well as facilities. So, yeah, when James Ducker has the byline for the Telegraph, you know you got to read it and you know you're in trouble. Did you see this? That Arsenal is looking at another U.S. goalkeeper. Patrick Schulte is in their crosshairs from Columbus Crew. I know a lot of us are sitting there saying, okay, go for it. But Schulte's done very, very well in a very short period of time for Crew. And so according to Mike McGrath at the Telegraph, Schulte is in the crosshairs. Should Aaron Ramsdale leave the Emirates, since Ramsdale lost his place to David Raya, Schulte has been on Arsenal's radar after catching the eye with Crew, selected Super Draft in 22, broke into the first team, and now he's attracting interest from European clubs. Called up to the U.S. national team, made his debut in January against Slovenia. A similar profile to Matt Turner is how he is viewed. Started looking at keepers as Ramsdale's departure is turning into a possibility. So keep an eye on Patrick Schulte and the possibility of a large, by comparison, a pretty good transfer fee involving Patrick Schulte if it comes to pass that Aaron Ramsdale wants out at Arsenal. So keep an eye on Schulte and a possible move from Crew to Arsenal. Once again, teams in Europe looking to Major League Soccer to add to their rosters. Brighton also fears that Roberto De Zerbi might leave in the summer because he's disgruntled. I always will bring this up. When has anybody ever been gruntled? Just asking. Has anyone ever been gruntled in their life? Morning, Derek, by the way. And if De Zerbi is still under contract and he doesn't just resign and up and quit and throw his arms up in the air and go someplace, it's a $12 million payday for Brighton since De Zerbi is still under contract. So anybody that wants to bring in Roberto De Zerbi, it's 12 million pounds. Sorry. 12 million pounds on the way over. What to watch, where to watch it, and how to watch. Busy day once again. BN has Copa Libertadores at 8:30, including our buddies from Always Ready. That's the name of the club. If you don't have BN, you want to watch Libertadores, Sudamericana, all the action in AFCON, a lot of the Middle East, North Africa, a lot of stuff in South America, Ligue 1. You can pick it up at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Helps out the club, helps out the cause, and it helps you out with all of your degenerate viewing habits. CDO for the fans, Nuestra Tela, TIC, all the BNs, Liga 1 Max, and I'm sure, and Sudamericana and Libertadores, all the points in between. You can pick it up at Fanatis. fntz.co/soccer down here. 8:30 Libertadores, BN and Español. CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza tonight. Alajuelense is hosting New England. They're down a boatload of goals. The nightcap, Monterrey and Cincinnati. It's the Brandon Vasquez Derby in the reverse fixture at 10:15. 2 to NA today is Europa League. 1:45 West Ham and Freiburg. Liverpool and Sparta Prague at 4. Unimas has Liverpool and Sparta Prague on the simulcast. League 2, Salford City and Stockport County on the plus at 4 o'clock. You have 8 matches in Europa League, 4 at 1:45, 4 at 4 o'clock in Europa on Paramount Plus. Rangers Benfica, Slavia Prague Milan, Villarreal Marseille, West Ham Freiburg. Those are at 1:45, 4 o'clock. Atalanta Sporting, Leverkusen and Karabag, Brighton and Roma, Liverpool and Sparta Prague. Not Slavia Prague. Slavia Prague's hosting Milan, Liverpool's hosting Sparta Prague. Europa Conference League, 4 at 1:45, Fenerbahce, Union Saint-Gilloise, Fiorentina, Maccabi Haifa, PAOK Salonika, and Dinamo Zagreb, Victoria Pilsen, and Servette, 4 o'clock. Aston Villa Ajax, Club Brugge Molde, Lille and Sturm Graz, Maccabi Tel Aviv, and Olympiacos. VIX has all 16 of those matches as well as CONCACAF Champions Cup, and that is at 10:15. They've got the nightcap. Once again, FS2 has both the matchups at 8 and at 10:15 tonight. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Who might be going where? Who's doing what? Provided I click the right things. PSG preparing an £80 million bid for Marcus Rashford, willing to pay him £500,000 a week. It's from the Star. Take the information as you would. Also interested in Luis Diaz as a replacement for Mbappe, set to join Real Madrid. Todd Bowley willing to sell. They could have to sell up to 15 players in the offseason. Chelsea, by the way. Willing to sell Lukaku and Kepa to Saudi leagues in the summer to attempt to raise £100 million. That's from TalkSport. Manchester United's recruitment team are touring Europe's biggest clubs before the transfer window to get an early start on the summer squad rebuild. But remember, as we just told you, you got to have the window. You got to have the capital to do it. United also made a signing as center back a top priority. Juve and Brazil defender Gleison Bremer along their list, along with Jared Branthwaite. Liverpool's Joe Gomez, Brentford's Ivan Toney, Rangers' Jack Butland set to be named in the England squad for friendlies against Brazil and Belgium in March. Toney was named. Liverpool among the Premier League sides interested in Hoffenheim's forward Maximilian Bayer. PSG may offer Xavi Simons, who's on loan at RB Leipzig, as part of a swap deal to Manchester City for Bernardo Silva. Barcelona considering selling defender Ronald Araujo, who's been linked with Bayern Munich, if they get an offer of €100 million. Inter Milan chief exec Giuseppe Moratti expects 26-year-old Argentine striker Lautaro Martinez to extend his contract. Arsenal also working on a wage package for Real Sociedad midfielder Martin Zubamendi before a move in the summer. Chelsea set to secure a healthy sell-on fee if Bayern sells Jamal Musiala, who's been linked with an £80 million move amid interest to Manchester City and Liverpool. 4-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Chelsea have reached an agreement with Brentford to make Bernardo Cueva their new set-piece coach from the end of this season. Southampton are trying to sign Argentine forward Matias Sula from Juve if they are promoted to the Premier League. Crystal Palace, Newcastle, Aston Villa also interested in the 20-year-old. And that is from our friends at Calcio Mercato. And that is the gossip, rumor, and innuendo this morning. Del, thank you for being gruntled every time you watch SDH. Thank you for that. Like I said, I just want somebody to be gruntled just once. Just want somebody to be gruntled. That's all I want. KFC Forza Roma. Yeah, I think you and Nick should be getting into discussions about what you're hunting for and what you're looking for there. When you're disgruntled, I mean, traditionally when you're disgruntled, to me that means that, you're kind of pissed. And so being gruntled would mean the absolute opposite to me. Thank you, Hutch. Definitions of gruntle: verb, cause to be more favorably inclined, gain the goodwill of. Synonyms: appease, assuage, conciliate, gentle, lenify, mollify, pacify, placate. Type of: calm, calm down, lull, quiet, quieten, still, tranquilize, tranquilize with an S, and tranquilize with 2 L's. So, yes, just be gruntled. Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you did one thing today, if you did one thing, and by the way, the U.S. U23 roster, according to Stephen Goff, expected in the coming days. So don't anticipate anything like today, but just once. I'm thinking, maybe if we, in our small way, we were to help you be gruntled leaving the show, then we've done our job. You come in disgruntled, maybe you leave gruntled. Just a thought. Just thinking. If you leave here gruntled and you finish the rest of your day from Soccer's morning show, I think we've done our job at that point. A couple of other quick points before Niko joins us. Note out of USL, Brooklyn FC is moving to the USL Championship ahead of the men's 2025 season. They're going to, it was announced today in the offices in Tampa that Brooklyn is moving up from League One, and they're going to play at Maimonides Park in Coney Island, set to kick off in USL. They're set to first kick off this August in the inaugural season of the USL Super League, followed by the 25 USL Championship in March. So that's the path for Brooklyn Football Club. And so they're going to go from, initially they were going League One, USL Super League, and that got sanctioning. So the club is going to play in Coney Island, set to kick off in the inaugural season of the Super League, followed by the 2025 and USL Championship. And so keep an eye on that. The other thing this morning, and this is something that should have happened probably, Dell said Brooklyn's mascot is Joey Chestnut. Is that right, or is that somewhere else? I don't know. I don't know if that is the mascot, but their logo is more elevated train track, silver and black than anything. David, channeling your inner mean girl. Stop trying to make Gruntled happen. It's not going to happen. Hey, fetch couldn't happen. I think Gruntled can. That's just me. Yes, Gruntled down here. We could do our own little bit. One of the things to pay attention to in the upcoming little bit, Tom Bogert says that there's going to be a roster rule change in the works expected this summer. The Major League Soccer folks are going to decouple the DP rule and the U22 initiative. So remember that you could only previously get a certain number of U22s and DPs. You couldn't have 3 of each. Currently, for an MLS club to use all 3 U22s, they can't have 3 senior overmax budget DPs. In that instance, according to Bogert, clubs can use only 1 U22 spot. Under the expected change, clubs will have access to all 3 U22s, no matter how they strategize their DPs. Sources say this change and other discussed changes that could come this summer, not replacing bigger, more sizable discussions to continue overhauling the roster rules this winter, hasn't been officially passed by the owners, but it is expected to. Senior DPs currently hit at a budget fixed charge of $683,750, regardless of their actual salary or transfer fee. That's why Messi can get paid like $50 million in NIL, but his cap charge is $683,750. Young DPs hit the cap at no more than $200,000. That's why Atlanta United could have Thiago Almada for what they have Thiago Almada for. So Hani Mukhtar gets paid 3.2. Cap hit $683,750. Enter Miami. Thomas Aviles, £7 million fee plus add-ons. Facundo Farias, 5.5. Diego Gomez, 3. All of those only count $200,000 on the cap. Farias got injured. He was placed on long-term, and that's how they could bring in Federico Redondo for $8 million. But once again, that's just $200,000 on your cap. You can pay whatever you want to bring them in. It's just $200,000 on the cap. That's how it currently is. $23 million in transfer fees for one club. None of it counts against the soft cap, thanks to the U22s. 4 of the 29 teams are using all 3 DP spots in a way that allows for just one U22 player. Nashville, the Revs, the Purple Team, and Cincinnati. Now it opens up another spot for heavy investment for other teams. Now, once again, Messi and friends don't have to worry about that third DP spot. The Fire spent $12 million to sign Hugo Kuipers. That would now open up another DP spot. Austin needed their third DP to be Ring. Now the change, they could sign another senior DP. So that's where we are. Big rule change there. All right, it is 10:35. We got 24 minutes. We're going to blow through what's on this man's mind. We're going to find out what cup of coffee he's on and what the mug is this morning. Niko Moreno. Niko, good morning, my buddy.
What's going on, John? SDH family. It is cup number 2, Rave Green mug. No game last week. Play Colorado this week. So, we're starting the week off nice and slow here.
I mean, we gotta boost it up a little bit and let everybody know the energy that's coming out this morning from out there. I was talking about Tom Bogert had released yesterday that it appears as one of the roster adjustments that is being proposed, and it probably is going to get signed in the summer. It looks like the U22 initiative and the DPs, they will no longer be married. They will have a divorce, and they can live on their own in their own homes, in their own subdivisions. You won't have to worry about locking down your number of DPs to satisfy U22 numbers. It looks like starting next year, or at least this summer, you might be able to have 3 each. It's about, ish time that this happened.
Yeah, so I'm not 100% sure if it is going to get done this year in the summer window. I think it's a baby step to a lot of changes that are going to come up. You get it, though. I think we all do. The league wants to go younger. The league has seen the benefits and how important it is to be this showcase for young talent. And a lot of teams are already doing this types of moves, right? In Miami had a whole bunch. Seattle this season had their first young DP. Here and there you've been seeing some of that, and that's why I understand why this could be the easiest thing to do and the easiest thing to just give those that have been screaming from the tops of their lungs to just give teams, just more tools, more resources, more ability to just get better, bigger rosters. You saw some of the issues that, and I don't want to be, so simplistic to say that that's the only problem, but, when MLS teams face this MX teams, there is a little bit of there's a big difference when it comes to the salary of the teams and such. So doing something like this just provides teams with just more talent. So I like it. I think it's a good initiative, but I'm not completely sold on if it's going to happen this summer or if they're going to just hold it and put it together in a big old package for 2025, but we'll see.
And that's the thing that, we've been talking about a lot. We talk about it here on the show. You and I have talked about it, forever and ever until we're blue in the face, or in your case, I guess, rave green in the face. And it's you need to make these kinds of adjustments so your league can compete or be closer to competing with the Liga MX sides, because I know that there was a lot that was made of this week where the Major League Soccer teams, they were taken out back, and the Liga MX sides got out the big leather belt and decided to make a statement with the backsides of the Major League Soccer opponents in the CONCACAF Champions Cup and the Hemispheric Extravaganza. And I know it's like you've got to release the shackles, you've got to move the salary cap up, all these kinds of things. I know it was only like an 8% increase from year to year. There are a lot of things that need to be done when it comes to increasing salary structure and availabilities and all these kinds of things, it's a great first step. Uncoupling these two, but it's a step of something that needs to have a lot of other steps attached to it.
Yeah, it's a step in the right direction. And that's exactly why I'm not sure if maybe they want to start off with this kind of like a little Costco sampler and just, here you go, guys. Tell me how it tastes this summer. And then we'll give you the whole thing on aisle whatever in 2025. Or are they going to hold it? But yes, at the end of the day, I think you'll see a lot of things going simpler, and maybe we get rid of a lot of the TAM and GAM. And you know, I know that that's been in people's minds and conversations. I don't, again, I am an advocate for keeping the salary cap space because of all of the reasons that I've always mentioned in the past. Keeps the league extremely balanced, competitive in all levels, and it provides the necessity for a lot of these teams to play their homegrowns and use those resources to create a pipeline to provide young players a way into the first team and a way to be contributors and a way to move on to other things. But you do things like this to just create a bigger purse for teams to get out of and build their roster. So I don't expect that to go away ever, in my opinion, the salary cap. But I just do expect it to get bigger and have things like this just make it easier for the bigger clubs to get talent and the smaller clubs to maybe go find gems here and there everywhere in the world, South America, Europe, whatever you might have your scouting teams at. So I think it's positive.
I know that some folks wear bracelets that have a WWJD on it, but if we applied what we're talking about to Major League Soccer and to your part of the world, the bracelet could just as easily sit there and say WWSD. What would the Sounders do? Would the Sounders continue to, let's say that this initiative that Tom Bogert reports happens. You decouple, you get the divorce of the U22s and the DPs, and you can get 3 of each, and you can do whatever. Would Seattle continue their current path of developing through Tacoma and finding the strategic pickup where you're going to drop 8 figures on a transfer fee? Would they alter their strategy any if you get the idea of, okay, we can use all 3 DPs and chase all 3 U22s at the same time? Would there be a seismic change, or would it just be like, okay, cool, we got more stuff we can play with?
I think it's option B. It's just more we can work with, more of what we can continue to do what we've been doing, because you have seen a trend change here in the Pacific Northwest, if you will, both whether it's the Timbers or the Sounders, and specifically talking about the Rafe Green. You know, it started with Leo Chu, a player that was not as high profile, not as big of a budget, but it was a younger player, U22 initiative, and then you get your young DP in Pedro de la Vega, and you could see that that's the trend that they want to go to. Because just because I get young players and prospects from wherever it is that I might grab them, doesn't mean that I'm going to forget about my pipeline and my academy and my homegrown players, because it really is a marriage, and there is a set of balance. And I feel like right now there's a bit of a disbalance with this roster where, because of injuries and everything that's going on, you have a lot more younger homegrown players that maybe you even would like to have on your bench. But that's just always going to be the Seattle way. So that's never going to go away at all. But now you might have more resources to go out there and get guys, because they've been looking at younger guys. I mean, Pedro was one of 5 of that exact same profile, age, style, that they were looking at. And I know that there is a bunch, included a 9, that is, you know, could be considered a young DP or whatever you might be, under 22 as well. So yes, I think that's just the way the Seattle Sounders are going to continue to work, because they have been wanting to get younger. They have been wanting to go out there and find themselves their Thiago Almada or their Alan Velasco. I mean, it is something that every club wants to do, and now you have more tools to do so.
Last week, Mother Nature gave Seattle an off week. I know that we talked about you were not all that optimistic about a trip to Philadelphia, but nothing happened. You got 5 minutes in, you got the rain enough to buy 40 cubits of wood for Noah to build his ark. You get on the ark 2x2, and everybody comes back safe. And Philadelphia goes and gets thumped by Pachuca. When you look at what happened last week outside of what didn't happen with Seattle, what stuck in your mind with the results from the last weekend?
I mean, it continues to be surprising to see certain teams, right? I mean, I don't want to keep banging, that Toronto drums, but, no goals given in 3 games. There is this beautiful marriage between John and Insigne, and that seems to be working. And the group and all the drama that we saw last season has completely gone away. And you got to applaud that when you come into a fire and you turn it all off, and you're able to just get the team on the field as a cohesive unit and forget about what happened the previous season, and you win games. Hasn't been brilliant, hasn't been amazing, but you're earning points. You're getting this team to buy what you're selling. To me, that's always got to be credit to the coach. And as much as I didn't think he was going to make this kind of impact, he has. And they've played some quality teams. It hasn't been, like bottom feeders in MLS. I mean, he's played some difficult teams, and yet this Toronto team just seems to be doing it well. So that was interesting. Portland in the exact same boat. I have here and every other show admitted that I'm not a Phil Neville guy. I didn't think that there was going to be a huge change in terms of the strategist and the motivator, but he has motivated. I mean, strategy-wise, I still think that, the DC game, I think he gives it up. He goes back to his 5-man back line, and he kind of allows DC to get on that game. That ends up in a draw. But in this one against New York, you're on the road. You go down a score, and still you are able to motivate and put your guys in the position to, without a lot of possession, be very effective. You could tell the guys as well, buying on what he's given. You could tell the sidelines, everything he's yelling and everything that he's trying to put out, the guys are buying in on. And in a very similar way there in Toronto, it's been impressive that he's been able to do that with this group, a younger group that has had some changes. Anthony has been amazing. Evander, obviously, beautiful goal. That's basically what stuck around. It's just those surprise teams that maybe I wasn't so high on, and now they're doing well. But we'll see what happens with Timbers. I heard a rumor in the hallways about maybe Evander leaving or so. So John Rojas kind of put it out on Soccer Bar last week. So we'll see. That'd be shocking if Evander goes, because he's been a quality player. He's a guy that does a lot for the Timbers. But yeah, that's kind of what stuck around.
You've got LAFC, a goalless draw with Sporting Kansas City. Tim Melia was on his head. Vancouver beat San Jose 2-0. Colorado continues to win. 2-1 winners. All Caps in Austin, a 2-2 draw. Minnesota won 3-2 over the Purple team. We've got the Purple team here in Orlando.
That's a tough one, man. Orlando's been a disappointment, man. I had these guys winning the CONCACAF Cup. They're already gone. I thought they were going to go to a hot start because they had, a core group. They were going to be playing well. They had some new talent. They added the right pieces. They added experience. They kept Maguire, that was kind of like a bonus because you thought he was going to be gone, and you're still struggling the way you are, man. That's been kind of scary. I don't want to doubt Oscar Pareja, but I mean, he could get away from him if you continue to not pull it together. Look, Minnesota, they're no peach. Look, I get that they have some talent, and Pookie has been good, and Bongi came back and scored, and you're still waiting for Reynoso, but this team has been kind of thriving on just individual moments. And Orlando's always been a team that's known for what? Being organized, being a group, making it difficult, and just the amount of goals they've given up in 3 games is unreal. So that's been disappointing to see from Orlando.
And coming off of a travel in the midweek where you get thumped by Tigres. Now you're having to come and you're going to be playing here against a rival on the weekend that put 4 on New England.
And we called that right here, man. I want to say I didn't go back to check because I had a difficult time downloading into my phone this time around the show, but I wanted to just check because it seemed like I did pretty well last week, man, and including that. I said Atlanta United, they were going to come in, they were going to score some goals, and they did, man. And you're right, that's a good game coming up. That's tough for Orlando against Giacomakis that just had a fantastic game.
Yep, and so you're going to end up with that one. So now it's time where we play cliffhanger and get everybody ready for what's going on this week. And with the matches, obviously, Purple Team's going to be a part of it with the discussion with Atlanta. You've got afternoon games on Saturday, and the way that we traditionally do this, for those who are not familiar with how we do things here, we take the cliffhanger rules from The Price is Right. We go through all the games on the board. We get Niko's thoughts. If he's got a game he wants to talk about, he yells stop, or he just starts talking about the game in particular. And in that way, we wrap things up for yet another week with him. So Chicago and Montreal. Chicago is favored 2:00 in the afternoon Eastern time to start things off on your Saturday. DC United and Messi and friends, and the numbers have exploded ever since Tata came out with the announcement last night that Messi probably is not going to play after he got pulled for 50 minutes in CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza, where they had a big lead, no worries or anything like that. DC United at home now is a plus 110 as Inter Miami comes to town now at a plus 214. We saw what happened last week with Montreal winning in South Florida, and now they travel to DC. DC's a heavy favorite. Still on the plus side, hosting Messi and friends. Seattle and Colorado. I have to stop here because of local interest. Seattle's a minus 175 on the board. Colorado to win north of plus 480. What do you think?
Wow, those are really the numbers, huh? Woo! Look, man, I might buy into a Seattle win against Colorado. Seattle's still missing some guys, yes. But you're going to get Albert at least on the bench. Yammer Gomez Andrade might start. That's your best defender. Colorado hasn't been impressive. I don't care what anyone says. That RSL game was a little bit odd. I felt like Arango was not his quality self in front of goal. I still don't buy on the pressing and what we're used to see from a Chris Armas team that, has certain principles that you're not quite seeing right now. I heard from some fans that this was Jordy's best game. I had to go back and rewatch it because I didn't quite see that. So I think that they're going to give the Seattle Sounders the ball. Seattle's going to get extremely comfortable. I don't think that they have the weapons to completely just bunker down and let's see what happens. We're going to play off the counter to really hurt Seattle. So I think this could be a 1-0 game, a feel-good game for Seattle at home. Sunny is going to be 70 and beautiful, 12:30. I'm starting to see a little bit more from that offense with Raul Ruidiaz. They're going to go back to the 4-4-2 on this one. I think they can give Colorado some problems. Again, I think that a lot of people are shooting a little bit high when it comes to this Colorado team, considering what we saw in the first couple of games. Yes. Has there been progression? Absolutely. Has it gotten a little better? Yes. But at the end of the day, this team lacks a little bit of a bump, a hit, some power up top. Navarro has been so. And if you can't really have a guy that's going to make Seattle uncomfortable back there, I think it's going to be a lot like Austin, where maybe Seattle just needs to put it away. And that might be the difficult part because it's been their Achilles heel. But I see Seattle winning this game. I think that they're motivated. I think they need a win. As much as Brian didn't want to admit it, not playing a game still allow certain guys to get back. You don't have that wear and tear of a game. So, yeah, I think Seattle has all of the components and the situation to win this game against Colorado.
Crew now on night side East Coast time. Crew hosting Red Bulls at a -109. We'll get to see what Emil Forsberg can do on the road at the Death Star at lower.com. Should be an interesting matchup trying to confine him for a full 90 minutes.
Yeah, that's a good one.
NYC hosting Toronto. NYC, big favorite at home at a -137. Toronto is north of +345, almost a +350 to win at the locale in New York City, wherever this match is going to be played.
Give me Toronto, man. Give me Toronto, and the alarms are going to go off in New York, and people are going to lose their minds. But I think Toronto's hard to break down. New York hasn't been able to break down teams. They haven't been able to score. I think if there's a team that's going to make you pay the fact that you don't have a creative player and you don't have some of those edgy, wingers that are going to stretch out your defense, is Toronto, man. Shane O'Neill has been great. I talk about David Flores. I mean, the whole defensive compactness that they have is going to make it hard for New York, man. I can see that being a 1-0 thriller and Toronto taking that away. What's the numbers on that again?
You got New York City at a -137 at Yankee Stadium. Your draw is a +295, so it's basically heading toward +300. And Toronto to win a +346 in the composite.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that.
Okay. 8:30 Eastern, Austin at Q2 hosting Philadelphia. They say this one's a pretty much a draw across the board. Both teams on the win in and around +160 to 165. FC Dallas favored at home against Vancouver to +122. No surprise there. Houston at Hell in a Shell is a -109, hosting Portland, who's a +287 on the road.
Wow.
Minnesota and LAFC at Allianz. LAFC's favored on the road at a +142. Minnesota United at +175. That's an intriguing number set up right there heading into that one.
Yeah. What's the draw on that one?
+261 in the composite.
I see a little bit of a draw there. I don't think Minnesota is going to play as openly as maybe they have. I think that they're going to be selective on their press. LAFC had issues of their own putting the ball away. As much as they create opportunities and they have great wide play, this could be one of those draws. I love Martinez. Did you see Martinez last week with that run from coast to coast? He just, obviously he's a young kid, should have passed that ball, but you can see the talent there. But no, I think this is going to be a draw. I'm not buying Minnesota stock. Let's make that very clear. I'm not. I told you guys they're going to be that team that's going to make you cringe all season long.
Yep.
They're going to be on that line between getting to the playoffs and not into the playoffs, but I'm just not buying it quite yet. But I think that they could get a draw here against LAFC.
Nashville favored against Charlotte at a +139. Sporting at a -137. San Jose has no offense. I got to go Sporting there. LAG in all caps, the late game Saturday night at a -127. Paintsel-Peck and Puig. It's a P3 up against all caps. I got to go with LAG. Sunday, it is the Revs and FC Cincinnati. Revs favored at a +122. Wrapping up 7 o'clock Sunday night, Atlanta and the Purple Team. Atlanta's a -115 with the Purple Team coming on the road. We talked about that one. You're leaning toward Atlanta, yeah?
I think Atlanta is going to put it on Orlando. I'm not going to say it's going to be the exact same way as against the Revs, but when you look at Cesar Araujo being out, I think that's a tough, sensitive injury for them in that midfield. You saw Martins come in, and it just wasn't the same with Felipe right next to Cartagena. I think I haven't seen Pedro Gallese had a worse week or a couple of games that he has just recently. I mean, from the MLS game where he literally gave up the ball at his feet, to the game against Tigres where he's out of position consistently, where he's just not looking like himself. Even his reaction off of mid-range shots has not been it. So I think Orlando's in a bit of a slump. Even offensively, Facundo Torres has not been able to ignite this team. Nicolas Odero himself, with all the experience and everything that's going on there, still hasn't been able to really put his mark. I think Orlando is in some issues, and Atlanta, on the other side, they're coming off a very good game. They have the inertia. They have the momentum. I think it's going to be a good game for Atlanta.
Looking forward to it. What's going on with Soccer Bar and Pulso Sports?
All right, with Pulso Sports, we have everything that has to do with the injuries in the Seattle Sounders. We're going to have updates. Brian Smasher is going to talk back on Friday, so I would say check Pulso Sports then to figure out exactly who's going to be in, who's going to be out. If you're asking me right now, I think Stefan Fry's out, I think Joe Paulo's out, and I think Yeimar and Albert are going to be playing off the bench. Maybe Yeimar, he's looked pretty good. Maybe he gets a start, but he's going to have to shake some rust off. So you're going to get all that update, all of those analysis, if you will, in Pulso Sports. Also, obviously, after the game, we're going to be doing my new segment, which is After the Final Whistle. I'll talk to whoever's available there at the press conference that is of interest of you guys. Maybe it's Jackson Phelps, maybe it's Pete Fewen, maybe Brad Evans. Whoever gives me the time to break down what happened in that Colorado game, they will be on Pulso Sports and Soccer Bar in about an hour. We're going to break down exactly what we talked about here. We're going to go more in depth into that 6-0 from Pachuca, that 4-2 loss for Orlando, what's going on with Orlando, what's going on with Gillespie. Check that out at Soccer Bar.
What he said. Looking forward to it, my friend. We will catch up next week. Be safe, and may Mother Nature be kind so you have a game to watch and talk about.
Appreciate it, my friend.
That is Niko Moreno, Pulso Sports in the Soccer Bar, and that's another go-around with Nico. He's going to go with cup number 2. Maddie, we are on the doorstep. We are out. It is the express lane. Last thoughts before we go.
It's going to be a fun weekend. I'm excited for everything coming up. Make sure y'all tune in tomorrow when Soccer Down Here is in Perry.
Yep, the Soccer Down Here, 5:30, 7:30, Griffin and Perry back at it 9:05 tomorrow morning. Beyond Goals at 9:05, and it is the weekend whip around patent pending trademark coming sooner, hopefully rather than later. All divisions, it looks that way. NWSL, USL Championship, League One, Major League Soccer. We'll go through it all in hour number 2. Going to be busy. For Maddie, for Jarrett, for Jason, for Nico, for all of us here, thanks for hanging out with us. We're going to go learn stuff about Atlanta United too. Back at it again, 9:05 tomorrow morning. Since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do this. We'll be back at it again in about 22 hours.